Hey there, Mike Robbins here, coming to you live on what's today, the 29th? I think it's Thursday the 29th, about 12:45 almost p.m. Pacific time. Hope you're well. I am back up on Facebook for the first time in a while, and also on LinkedIn and YouTube. So good to see you. If you're joining live on any of those platforms, feel free to just chime in the comments and say hello. Let me know how you are, where you are, what's going on. I want to talk today a bit about the difference between suffering and struggling. So we tend to use those words interchangeably, but they're not actually the same. Neither are very positive, obviously. But I did a podcast episode about this earlier this week and wrote about this in our email newsletter, but wanted to come on here live and talk a little bit about it. So I've been struggling, as have so many people that I know and talk to. I mean, look, the last 13, 14 months with the pandemic and everything that's gone on in our country and our world have not been easy for most of us, some of us even more so than others. But I think, even with super grateful and humbled and feel really privileged to have gotten vaccinated. Michelle and I both got our shots, and earlier this week was our official, I think 2 days ago, we were officially vaccinated 2 weeks post second shot. And then, the world's opening up. I'm giving my first in-person speaking engagement tomorrow night for the first time since early March of last year. It's springtime. Sports are happening. I mean, all these positives. I feel better about the state of the country, even with all the challenges and issues, just with new leadership and all these things that are on the surface better. I think in some weird way has kind of had me calm down just a little bit and catch my breath a little bit more and realize, wow, like, hey, Allison, nice to see you. There's a lot of aspects of my life where I'm really struggling. But I think, again, there's a difference between struggling, like we're going through some things that are hard, and then suffering. And the difference that I see is when I'm suffering, and I've been catching myself getting caught more in the suffering, is when I'm whining, complaining, sort of feeling victimized by the circumstances, as opposed to just feeling the pain or acknowledging the struggle. And so some of the areas where I've been struggling, like parenting, has been an incredible struggle for us over this last, bit of time. And even the last few months, maybe more so than the first few months. Our girls are 15 and 12. And it's just, for almost everyone I know who has kids of any age, but particularly teens and tweens, it's such a hard time for them. And Michelle and I have been really having a tough time. It's been super humbling. And I feel like I make so many mistakes and don't know the right thing to do or the right thing to say. Look, not that parenting has ever been super easy for me, but it just feels like a real struggle and a real challenge. Business has been a struggle. I'm super grateful for technology and being able to connect with you this way, being able to connect with our clients on Zoom. I've remained incredibly busy over the last year plus, and our team has, and our clients have been really active, which I'm super grateful for. But overall, not only has business and sort of revenue been down a bit, which it has been, but just the process of doing the work that I do, which I absolutely love, has just been way more laborious. I'm not traveling and I'm not rushing here, there, and everywhere. Although as much as that would be somewhat exhausting for me at times, it was super energizing, and I love being around people and with people. So the process of selling and promoting, as well as designing and delivering, and then ultimately facilitating the work itself and the keynotes and the workshops and the seminars virtually. Again, grateful to be able to do it virtually. Thank goodness it's not 1987 and, we don't have this technology, but man, it's been hard. And I miss so many things. Health-wise, just, it's been, thankfully I've been healthy. No one in my house has gotten COVID. Most of the people I know have been healthy. But I just haven't been taking great care of myself. I've gained about 15 pounds during COVID, on top of probably 5 or 10 that I was wanting to let go of right as we were getting into this. So I'm about 20 or 25 pounds heavier than I like to be or want to be. I'm definitely heavier than I've been maybe ever consistently. I mean, I've gotten this heavy at a few moments in my life, but not for this long. And I sort of find myself struggling to not only release the weight, but just be healthy and, you know, eating wise and exercise wise. And, you know, it's been a struggle. Again, I know I'm not alone. And I also, as I'm saying these things, I'm mindful of the fact that like, there are people who've lost their lives. There are people who've lost their jobs. There are people who've lost their businesses. There are people who are dealing with all kinds of systemic racism and violence and challenge and difficulty and life-threatening things that none of which I'm dealing with. And I've still been struggling. And I think it's important to, you know, be able to acknowledge that it's been a struggle to motivate myself. I mean, ironically, you know, I'm a motivational speaker. That's what I do. That's what I've been doing for 20 years. And how do I motivate myself to get up and do the work every day, to get up and show up for myself and my life and my family? And then just, you know, everything going on in the country and in the world. I was watching the verdict being read of the trial for Derek Chauvin last week. And I realized, thankfully, to some degree, I haven't been as obsessed or engaged with the news in the last number of weeks and months, both by choice and also just feeling like things are less chaotic with the government and with the president and all that. So I haven't felt the need to have to pay as much attention, if that makes sense. And but I was watching and feeling super nervous and having some PTSD from 1992 when the officers who beat Rodney King were acquitted, and was scared that was going to happen with Derek Chauvin. And then just listening and reading and hearing so many stories over the last few weeks and months and over the course of this last year of hearing and knowing the violence and the fear that exists in the Black community here in the US and in so many communities of color and places where people don't feel safe and people are dealing with the impact of systemic racism on top of all of what's going on still with COVID. And even though it seems to be getting better here in the US, I was on a call with a group of leaders earlier this week, and a number of them either live in India or are from India and have family there, and just realizing how the virus is raging there, and just so struggling with the heaviness and the intensity of and the cumulative effect of all of this over the last year. And so I say all of that not to be a downer, not to be a bummer, not to whine and complain, but just to share some of my own struggle. What are some things you're struggling with? What are some things that people around you are struggling with? I mean, I don't think any of us are really playing with a full deck these days, emotionally, mentally, energetically. And I simultaneously feel excited about things opening up and starting to move more in a direction towards whatever normal is going to be. But I also just feel exhausted and, you know, concerned about many people that I know and love. And so I think, though, it's important for us to look at our struggle and our challenge. Maybe we have a lot of struggle and challenge right now. Maybe we have a very little bit. Most people I know are struggling to some degree with some things, and some pretty significantly. But the difference between struggling, which is a natural, normal part of life, and suffering has a lot to do with the way we relate to it. Nice to see you on here, Mary. Thanks for the kind words. And Miles, I'm sorry to hear that your position was eliminated after 11 years. That's incredibly challenging, painful, scary, disappointing, I'm sure. So what can we do to really acknowledge our struggle, to move through it in a healthy way, and not to get caught stuck in suffering? Because, I mean, there's a great saying, but it's true. It's like pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And it's not to say that there aren't things that happen in life or haven't happened in the last few weeks, few months over the course of this year that haven't been really difficult for a lot of us. But ultimately, when we suffer, when I find myself suffering, it's when I feel stuck. It's when I feel victimized. It's when I feel like I have no option. I can't do anything. And I'm overwhelmed by the circumstances, and woe is me. What do you want from me? So here are some things that I've been thinking about and trying to practice myself in the midst of my own struggle to navigate through it and to try not to get caught in the suffering. The first thing I think that we can do is just remember it's okay to struggle. somewhat inevitable in life, and we're going to go through times that are difficult and times we struggle. And look, we're in the midst of a global pandemic. I know we're 13, 14 months into it. I know we're, moving through it and that we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but like, it's okay to struggle. And it's important to be able to acknowledge the struggle, acknowledge and really feel our feelings. So that's the first thing. The second thing that's important for us to do is accept the reality. Come to that place of surrender. My word for the year, I always pick a word for the year, is surrender. And I actually have a love-hate relationship with surrender and the concept of surrendering. It's like, there's a negative connotation of surrendering, right? It's like surrender, like giving up. It's not really giving up. It's allowing things to be as they are. One of my favorite quotes, I've probably shared it here on a social live or two before. I often share it on my podcast and when I'm speaking, is from Byron Katie. She says, when you argue with reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time. So can we surrender to the way things are, the way life is? Not like resignation, not like giving up, but just allowing it to be the way that it is and accepting it so that we can move through and ultimately transform it. But we can't transform anything that we can't accept. A third thing that we can do is ask for help, ask for support, right? Most of us love helping other people. Most of us struggle asking other people for help. And look, understandably right now, people are burdened, people are overwhelmed. Most people's boats are taking on water, so to speak. So we got to be mindful of who we ask for help and how. But what usually gets in our way from asking for help is fear of being rejected or fear of being judged. But what we forget is that most people love helping. So when we ask, not only might we get some help and support, but we give other people the opportunity to do something that they love to do. The fourth thing that I've been thinking about is trust. Trusting the process, trusting that things are unfolding the way that they're meant to be. And I don't mean to sound corny or cliched or Pollyanna about it, because look, some stuff is hard. And when we're in the midst of a tough spot, it's hard to trust that we're going to get out of it. But here's the deal. We've made it through 100% of every challenge that we've ever faced in our lives up to this point. There's no reason to believe this challenge or these struggles aren't the same as those to some degree. This too shall pass. Right? Life is a train ride home that all of us are on, with the scenery changing outside all the time. Our job is to appreciate the scenery, even if it's not our favorite scenery. And the final thing is, and Mary, you mentioned it, Miles, you mentioned it, the fifth thing that we can do of these 5 things is be grateful. Focus on what we're grateful for. Again, gratitude doesn't mean everything's great. Gratitude doesn't mean there's no stress, there's no challenge, there's no difficulty, there's no struggle, there's no pain, there's no disappointment, there's no sadness, there's no grief. No, gratitude means we choose to focus on what we're grateful for, even and especially when things are hard. So much to be grateful for right now. I'm grateful for you watching this video, connecting with me on social media this way. I'm grateful for my work. I'm grateful for Michelle, my wife, our girls, Samantha and Rosie, my health, technology, a beautiful day outside, vaccines, so many things. Resilience, strength, insight, learning, books, Netflix. I could go on and on. But when we choose to be grateful, it shifts our mindset. It reminds us that there's abundance there, even when we're struggling. So if you are struggling right now, which many of us are, I'm with you. My thoughts are with you. My heart's with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not weak. You're not bad. You're not flawed. You're just human. It's okay to struggle. This will not last forever. And we've all been through quite a bit, and we continue to go through quite a bit. And let's be mindful of not going into comparative struggle or sort of comparative suffering, if you will, who has it worse. There are lots of people who have it worse than us, which is important to remember and be mindful of course, and to be respectful. And at the same time, our struggle and our challenge and any pain associated with that is real. And so it's important for us to acknowledge it. But the 5 things that I talked about, right? The first thing is remembering it's okay to struggle. The second thing is acceptance or surrender. The third thing is asking for help. The fourth is trusting that it's going to pass and we will make through it, and we will get through it at some point. And the fifth thing is gratitude. And Mary, to your point, look how far we've come. Look where we are. I know it's been bumpy and challenging for many of us. Maybe it's getting easier, maybe it's getting harder, but here we are. We've made it this far. So, Peter, good to see you, man. We've been playing some phone tag. I hope we can connect live. Nice to see you here on social media. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, whether it's on Facebook or on LinkedIn or on YouTube. Leave a comment if you're watching the video of this. Question, insight, feedback, anything you've got. Grateful to be able to connect with you this way. Grateful to get to do this work. And remember, even though it may not always seem like it, and we're all separated by time and space, especially these days, we're all in this thing together. So I'll talk to you again soon. Take care.